Well, I think fundamentally, I was born into the earth plane with a lot of trauma. You know this, but maybe for the person listening, I was abused. I was tortured as a kid from 0 to 5. It was one of the worst cases in Michigan, Cadillac, Michigan, that they'd ever seen. And my mom still has the newspaper.
Like your adoptive
Yeah, my
mom?
adopted mom still
Yeah.
has it. Where it was, if I couldn't tie my shoes fast enough, my dad would put cigarettes out on my forehead, or they fed me through a doggy door for like weeks on end. And I was outside in thunderstorms, and my dad would hold my head underneath the bathtub water as he would give me baths as a kid. So all the wiring that I got as a child, one would guess that you had to rewire it.
Right.
So my whole life has been about rewiring those moments, moment by moment, and really reaching for something that is beyond this realm. Luckily for me, at a young age, at the age of 5, I had my first lucid dream.
When you were still with your
When I was
dad.
still with my dad, and it was this monster that I saw that was this huge 8-foot monster in the dream. And I realized that I had the power to wake up in the dream. For whatever reason, I'm like, this is a dream. So I focused on the monster and I shrunk it. And
In the
as the
dream.
monster shrank in the dream, I was like, come here. And I held it in my arms. And when I woke up with tears in my eyes because I no longer wet the bed after a year of having the same dream over and over again, I realized that that monster in the dream was my father in the awakened reality. The hall of mirrors, the reality that you and I live in, the projection or the perception shifted. And all of a sudden, my dad changed who he was in the earth plane. He never laid his hands on me again because of the distinction that I made in the other realm. And I brought that into the awakened dream.
Dude, you never told me this part of it.
Yeah.
That's
We went a
wild.
little deeper today, but I figured since we're on the beach.
We're in the first
this
4
is the
minutes.
vortex.
This is great.
Yeah.
Shit, where are we going?
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that you've always had, like, just in knowing you, I've known
Yeah.
that you've always had like lucid dreams and like
Yeah.
danced in the other realms in the dreams. But
Yeah.
that started through the abuse you
Through all the pain.
experienced.
I wanted to leave my body, and dissociating from your body is something a lot of people do today. Oh, the economy, the markets, the stock market. I'm just going to leave my
The
body.
pandemic.
I'm going to escape,
Right.
Escapism's huge. Netflix, a lot of guys are watching porn every
Social
single
media.
night, giving up their chi, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
For me, the escapism was like, okay, well, if I could change that dream, then I can change this dream.
So at 5, when you shrunk the monster,
Yeah.
cuddled the monster, when you came to, your father was different.
He was different. Yeah, he shifted energetically
Wow.
because there's more than meets the eye in the physical material reality. So it's like, how can I change the energy that I'm presenting to the world so that the world shifts in front of me?
I don't think we often, we hear quotes like from Wayne Dyer, like, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change.
Yeah.
When you're like deep in it, it is something as subtle and simple as that can completely change how you see the world. Usually it's some sort of emotional rock bottom or health rock bottom that makes us want to see, or we've been failed by a system. Like
Yeah.
you have an autoimmune or you have an illness and you go to your doctor and your doctor's like, oh, you just
There's no
gotta-"
cure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or there's no way out. Like you hear that about things like fibroids, things like autoimmune,
Yeah.
all these things
All the
that
stuff.
Crohn's, colitis, all these things that people have cured.
Yeah.
But yet the idea is, no, you can't.
I think to add to that, I think because most people are playing in the physical dimension. And in the physical dimension, it's very much science. It's what can I
Right.
feel?
The science.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
science.
PM.
Whereas this is the 3D. The physical reality is 3D. Now, a lot of the ancient mystics and initiates were going to the 4D, which was mental. So in the mental realm, if you can change something, which is what I did in the dream.
In here.
Yeah. You can change it in your mind. You can change it in your reality. If you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
Which that's what I see so much is that people have a truth, they know, but they're afraid to acknowledge it because the dissonance is too great and it's going to fracture the dream that the pretend world they're living in, that abuse is okay, that trauma, that behavior you have is still, I can still get away with it. But in order to get away with unintegrated knowledge, you have to numb it.
Yeah, you're lying to yourself. And most people would rather have the blue pill and go back to sleeping again.
But you can't. Like, that's the thing. You can't pretend. I think often, like, you can't pretend you didn't get a lightning bolt to the soul. You could try. But, like, once the awakening or the invitation to just... Because, I think ultimately what might be titled as an awakening is really starting to question your reality. Starting to question the things you were taught. Starting to ask, who am I?
Careful, though, because once you let a little light in that door, then you just want to swing the whole entire door open.
Right.
And then you lose yourself. Like you become somebody new that you would never imagine that you could be. So hanging out with you is like a floodlight to your soul. It's very uncomfortable to be around. And hanging out with me, same thing. It's like, if you want to spend time with me, and you're going to transform.
I can never tell you a limitation. I know that, because if I'm like, oh, I can't do that, you're like, come on.
Yeah. There's no limitation.
Right.
I think in hindsight, mentally, it makes sense now. But as a kid, it's like I knew.
You were still in the...
It's like, this is the way. And I was just following the innate intelligence of my body. Because, I mean, you've studied somatic, and, you know, inner knowing is in your body and your heart. Like, I think we're like, if you've ever watched The Octopus Teacher, like an octopus, their whole body's a brain. And I think the human body, we haven't even begun to understand how powerful it is. Like, I knew it.
Like the heart.
I knew it in my soul.
The gut brain.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much intelligence.
Yeah. So when I removed my thinking brain and I would just witness my reality, it's like, this was the way. And as a kid, I was so close to source. It's like I knew I just had to stay on that path. And one door would be open and then the next door. And I knew that before much time would take place, I'm like, we're going to be taken out of this situation.
How long was that till
I was about 5. And then we were put in a foster home.
Did you have the dream right before you were taken?
Exactly.
Wow.